think it is.
You see, you got Joël on the bottom and then Michael
I
above.
don't know.
You want to? No,
So-
I'm just asking who that is.
Committee Chair Michael Mark, it is 9:30, so the meeting is yours.
Sounds good. And Catherine, as you're running this meeting, we might need to go be quick on the mute for the hearing room. There might be some feedback as remote panelists are speaking. Okay, good morning, everyone. The time is 9:30. I call to order the March 21st, 2024 meeting of the Legislative Committee of the Contractor State License Board. My name is Michael Mark. I'm the Legislative Committee Chair. Please note that only board members who are members of the Legislative Committee may participate in this meeting. Other board members who are in attendance may observe but cannot ask questions or participate in the discussion. The meeting today is very important for the review of construction industry legislation and possible new legislative concepts. Because this teleconference is remote, committee members cannot make recommendations or motions. However, committee members can gather information, receive public comments, receive comments from other committee members, and discuss among themselves what is included in the summary report that will be available at our next full board meeting on April 17th and 18th. Committee members, we will be using our cameras during this hybrid meeting. So everybody, can you please, as committee members, please turn on your camera. And then when you have as committee members, when you would like to comment during the meeting, please raise your hand. I will be attempting to look at the participants and hands raised, but Catherine will be helping me. Our moderator, Catherine, will call on committee members to speak. When called upon, please unmute yourself, and when finished, return to mute. Robin, can you please call roll and confirm we have a quorum?
Michael Mark,
Here.
Joël Barton.
Here.
Rodney Cobos,
Here.
Miguel Galarza, excused absence. Amanda Gallo, excused absence. And Jim Ruane.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Robin.
As an FYI, Amanda just joined.
Amanda, can you please
Oh,
state that you are here? So with Miss Amanda Gallo, if you are here online, please turn your camera on and say present. We will continue on for now. So if everyone could please rise, we're going to do a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So in our hearing room, CSLB staff include Register David Folk, Chief Deputy Registrar Michael Jaminski, Public Affairs Chief Catherine White is remote, and Executive Office Staff Robin Williams, who will be taking roll. Also included is Jason Perez, Stacy Paul, Ms. Carol Gagnon, Steve Grove, and Board Legal John Ken is in the staff room also. Moving on, recruitment is underway to fill the vacancy left by prior legislation chief Fauna Lamar, who, as you know, is now a principal consultant for the Senate Business and Professional Committee. As such, David and Mike and I will be introducing and discussing today's agenda items. In addition, we are fortunate to have with us Yvonne Dorantes, DCA Board of Bureau Relations, and DCA Board Counsel John Kim that I mentioned earlier.
Michael, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure, go ahead.
There's a couple folks that are having difficulty hearing you. If you could just speak up a little louder. I know you're talking fairly loudly. And I don't see committee member Gallo on the video, which is required under our meeting today.
She was on, and then after I promoted her, honestly, she disappeared. So I want to make sure everyone was aware of that. If she comes back on, I'll make sure to let everyone know. Of
Thank you.
course.
Is that better for my microphone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we will roll with that. So in addition to whoever's in the room, I understand we may have representatives of the Office of the Honorable Assemblymember Carrillo and Honorable Senator Dodd as it relates to the bills up for discussion today. We look forward to their comments during the discussion for those items in the agenda. Can we please go to the next slide? So this next slide is agenda item B, our public comment section for items that is not on the agenda. To allow this committee enough time to conduct its full schedule of business, I will be limiting the public comments to 3 minutes apiece. Please note that state law prohibits committee members from discussing any matter brought up during public comment. We are not allowed to act on or on any item not on the agenda. If you want committee to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can ask us to consider placing this issue on the agenda at a future meeting. If you have an application, complaint, charges pending, or anything else before the board, we ask that you do not discuss these details of your case or pending complaint. Committee members are not permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. If your comments are related to a specific agenda item, you can make your comments now, but you may want to wait until that item comes up for discussion. We will ask for public comment for each agenda item. Public Affairs Chief White is our host and moderator today. She will be assisting us by monitoring public comment. Members of the public comment, would you like to comment at any time during the meeting? Please select the raise your hand in the WebEx application or leave a message with the chat feature. So Chief White, is there any public comment?
Yes, there are 3 on WebEx. I will call upon JP Tenor first.
Catherine, we have some public comment in the room.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Let's do the public comment in the room first. Please state your name for the record and then go ahead.
Yeah, my name is David Rodriguez. I want to thank the board for addressing that situation that I was bringing up about the municipalities hiring unlicensed contractors. And it's really refreshing to see one agency standing up for the rule of law. As a follow-up to that, the jury's still out on whether that's having any effect. There is some, I think. There's a lot of stubbornness out there, I think. But one of the things that I noticed in pursuing this is that this whole thing could have been avoided if this municipalities had been not just following contractors' state license law, but also following law in the public contract code, which requires for these awarding agencies to publish the license number required for the job that they solicit for or send out solicitation for. It is almost always blank in their solicitation forms. This is this city of Sacramento again, unfortunately, but what are the license requirements? It's always blank. And I've had to ask them, and they get stubborn with that too. They just don't provide it. And I kind of call on this board to do something similar that they did in notifying these agencies about the requirement for artists and such like that to be licensed, that the board should, always, they are best positioned to notify and bring this to light, basically an outreach to all the same awarding agencies that they're required to post the license required for these job solicitations. That I can see, no one was made responsible for this section of either the public contract code or the business and professions code. They both state that. And so consequently, a lot of them just don't know. And even when they find out, it's kind of too late for them to publish, because they always put the bids out at this point. So I would again ask that the board take some action, step forward and send out some sort of an outreach for these to cities, counties, and even the state does it sometimes. They just do not follow the law themselves. And this is a state law, not, you know, but anyway, that's my public comment for today.
Well, thank you. If it pleases the chair, we'll have our public affairs division follow up on a potential outreach opportunity with awarding agencies.
Yes, register folk, please follow up with the public commenter. Is there any other public comment in the room?
There's not.
Is there any public comment on WebEx?
Yes. I am going to call on JP Tenor, as I noted before, and then we have several others after that as well. So JP Tenor, I'm sending you a request to unmute.
And just because there could be some confusion, this is for public comments not on the agenda. You can speak on agenda items, but there will be opportunity at each agenda item for public comment for everyone's reference.
I sent the request to JP Tenor to unmute.
First of all, your last sentence was cut off. I didn't hear what the what you said. I tried to unmute. Can you repeat that so I know? It was instructions that was probably geared to me as well. Can you first restate what you said?
Sure. This is for public comment not on the agenda, but you have an opportunity at each agenda item for public comment. But if you choose so, you can make your public comments for an agenda item at this time. But there will be time for each agenda items for public comment.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. Thank you. I didn't want to say something that was different. My name is JP Tenori. I have Capistrano Computers, and we're kind of on the cusp of being a contractor in the fact that we do low voltage cabling. Everything from, and you think it's not a big deal. I had the Lake Elsinore guy even tell me, well, that's just low voltage. Some of this is powered, you know, it's sort of like, excuse me, you know, it falls under the jurisdiction of CSLB. There's a lot of, my industry is kind of cookie cutter, gray, and even black market almost. I do work in chain retail stores and banks and anything that's chain. And I noticed that there's a lot of unchecked, you spend a lot of time with sting operations, but you don't spend a lot of time with out-of-state companies that do work in big box stores and banks. And many of them don't have contractors licenses. They try and dictate the jobs, and then there's platforms that they hire unlicensed contractors. The platforms themselves don't have a license. And my comment to that is if a platform is exempt, can I get a platform? I can just put a platform for plumbing, mechanical, plumbing and HVAC. Am I exempt too if I check their license? That shouldn't be the case. It should be everybody in the according to the professions code, everybody in the middle of the transaction should have a California contractor's license. And I see a lot of work. Let's see if I can, in addition to unlicensed out-of-state contractors, the ones that are licensed, they hire unlicensed contractors. I know this because they go down as low, it totally affects the industry. They go down as low as $50 an hour as opposed to 105 or 75. Our industry is kind of fairly low because of the high volume work. And then also, I think it's a bad idea to allow $5,000 for stuff that is not anything individual to individual. Maybe allow $2,000 on private jobs. And let's see, hold on a second.
Sir, you only have about 30 seconds remaining.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty much it. I had a number for one of the enforcement guys, their cell phone, and I wouldn't mind talking to somebody about it. There's some stuff, more information I'd like to give on this. And maybe more direct, but I don't know what you guys think about all this. And that's something I want to be placed on the agenda. I guess that's it, except for one more thing.
You're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you. Someone from staff will contact you.
Okay, thank you.
If you can just put the contact information in the chat room, that would be helpful.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
Okay, Chief White, any other public comment on WebEx?
Yes, we have Evelyn, who I'll be sending a request to unmute. Evelyn, I've sent you a request to unmute.
If she is not responding, let's move on to the next.
Yes. I will send Lori Bean a request to unmute.
I'm a Ventura County resident. I do actually want to discuss an item on your agenda. Fortunately, I can't stay because I have another event that happens in a little bit later this morning, so I'm bringing it up now. It's item D1, in regards to disclosures. Recently, we've had some work done, and we're actually working with the CSLB, and I utilized the website before choosing a contractor, and this whole thing that's happened to us, which I'll leave the details out, has led me here because there's a lot of things as consumers we rely on the website to protect us consumers, and so I relied on that before making my decision. So there's some things I wanted to bring up in regards to disclosure. With our case specifically, again, I'll leave the names out per your request. When you do, the contractor we're speaking with happens to change company names and license numbers and uses different RMOs, and that's really created an issue because when I pulled up their company name, everything on the website looked green and active. Come to find out over this past year, as we've been trying to put our lives back together and go after these guys, we find out they have accusations on their other license numbers. But these accusations weren't listed on the current company name. That created a big issue with us because had I seen that, that would have been a big red flag. When another issue is the contractor, the actual person, when you do a search by that, none of the past history comes up, informing the consumer that, hey, these guys have a past history, maybe criminal activity, which in our case they do. Santa Clara County DA for CSLB has brought charges, and none of that appears online. So this is again in regards to D1, and I think it's really imperative that we do some adjusting on the website so that the history of the contractors, in this case, the bad guys, is shown so that we don't end up in these entanglements. I have lots to say on that, so I don't know if you guys, we can talk offline or whatever, but as a citizen, I'm available and ready to discuss all the things I think that would help, you know, putting big red boxes and stuff to make it more user friendly. Let me just look through my notes here real quick. That's basically it on the disclosures. One other comment is during this past year, since we've been going through all this, we needed to look up past history of these guys since it wasn't readily available. And to do so, we had to request it, send in a paper application with some money, which is fine, but it took 30 to 60 days. And that's just too long, because when you want to hire someone, you need the information now. Otherwise, like in our case, we hired these guys and $212,000 later and our house is a disaster. It creates quite the issue. So again, that also goes back to full disclosure of history of criminal actions, criminal behaviors, accusations, previous company license numbers,
Lori,
and all
you-
of that should be attached to the person as well.
yeah, Lori, you are out of time.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Mark, I think we're missing one committee member's camera. I don't know if it's blocked or we lost it.
Okay, so again, this is now with the new Bagley-Keene revisions, all committee members need to have their camera on for the entirety of the meeting. Back to Commodore Laura Bean, I would say make sure you look at the recording of this video when this agenda item comes up. There should be some staff discussion, and appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
I'm not sure which committee member does not have their video up. It looks like on my screen, everyone has it.
Right now, I'm seeing everyone's, yeah, I'm seeing Joël as well. That was the one that I hadn't seen earlier, but it looks like all 4 of the committee members who are currently on are on there.
It's good to see all of them. One of them was just off screen. My apologies.
Okay.
Oh, great, thank you so much. Chair White, any other public comment via WebEx?
Yes, I will send a request to Mark Porter to unmute. Mark Porter, I've sent a request to you to unmute. He says he cannot unmute. Let me try one more time to see if he can. I just sent it to you again, Mark Porter.
And seeing from the chat from Mark Porter, he looks like he
was able to unmute.
Looks like he wants to comment on agenda items, so maybe he would like to just wait till that agenda item comes up.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I've worked. I just want to say something real quick. But I worked on the exam development team with Pedro Duenas for the C49. Also worked with David Phillips back when he was the registrar when they licensed trees contractors. And so I'll wait for the those agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Look forward to hearing more. Chair, is there anything else, Chief Wyatt?
Yes, I'm going to send a request to Evelyn again. Her hand is still raised. It's not unmuting. We have one other comment. I'm going to send it to Phil Vermillion.
And just for Evelyn's sake, if you could send a written comment in, we will.
This is my 43rd year of working with the Contractors Board, representing the construction industry, many trade associations. On behalf of my client, the Flasher Barricade Association, American Contractors Indemnity, and my licensing company, Contractors Licensing Center, we have a bill that we're working with the construction industry on this year, AB 2677. This deals with an issue that the boards discussed back in the fall, dealing with the Carton case. And in this case, it went to the appellate court, and it was decided that there would be attorney fees, which completely out of the box, bad decision. Unfortunately for the Contractors Board, because up until a couple of years ago, in lieu of a bond, the board would accept cash. The board is also being requested to come in with attorney fees on some of these cases. And Registrar Fote and the board brought this up to you, and you voted in favor of supporting possible legislation this year. It was then decided to put it on the back burner because of the sunset hearings that just took place last week. And so the industry has stepped forward to try to address this mess, because the impact on the construction industry is going to be severe. If this is not resolved, there's going to be many surety companies. There have already been companies that have pulled out that are fairly large, but it's going to get worse. Plus, the cost and availability of license bonds is going to be severely restricted. There's going to be many contractors that, because of underwriting, that won't be able to qualify for bonds, which means they probably will go underground, and it's going to exacerbate the underground economy, which we know is bad as it is. So I would request, because it couldn't be put on the agenda for today, that this be put on the agenda for your board meeting next month, so that we can discuss this with the board and try to obtain your support for our bill, AB 2677 by Assemblyman Chen. The committee hearings will start next month in the Assembly Judiciary Committee, and this is absolutely critical for the construction industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, for your comment, and staff will get back to you. I'm sure Mr. Fote has your information. So, any other public comment?
Seeing none at this time.
Okay. Is there any committee members that would like a future agenda item for a legislative committee meeting? Seeing none, we're going to continue moving on. And just to circle back, no more public comment in the public hearing room, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So can we move onward? Agenda item C, review and discussion of 2023 and 2024 pending legislation. So we are now moving on to agenda item C. This agenda item is to inform members of the committee of two recently introduced legislative bills that affect CSLB. The CSLB is not a sponsor or the source of either bill. Before we begin discussions of the bill, I thought it'd be helpful to revisit the statutory priority of this board. Via Business and Profession Code 7000.6 reads as follows. Protection of the public shall be the highest priority for the Contractor State License Board in exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. Whenever the protection of the public is inconsistent with the other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. Business and Profession Code 7000.6. So the first bill that will be under discussion under agenda item C will be AB 2622 by Assemblymember Juan Carrillo. The bill was introduced February 14th, 2024. It was referred to the Assembly Committee on Business and Professions on March 4th of this year. It is currently set to be heard by the Assembly Business and Professions Committee on April 9th, 2024. Can we please move to the next slide? So this slide describes the state of current law and what this bill will do. Generally, as most people know, existing law requires that any construction work, $500 or more, labor and materials included, requires a contractor's license. This bill would change that amount to $5,000. This topic has come up before the board in recent years. For some quick background on this, I will turn it to the hearing room and turn it over to Chief Deputy Registrar Mike Jaminski.
Good morning. Thank you, Legislative Committee Chair Michael Mark. If I could trouble Ms. Watmore to turn to the next slide. We won't deviate too much from the slides here. We just wanted the folks on the line as well as the committee to know that the $500 amount was last increased in 1998. CSLB staff did go to the board with a proposal to have it increased to $1,000 in the fall of 2019. That amount was based on the Consumer Price Index at the time. This was as a possible backup solution to staff efforts to obtain a contractor, to create a contractor's license for non-structural work at lower amounts and non-structural repairs. We'll get to that in a moment. As you can see on this slide, the bill was never introduced because of concerns with an increase to that amount. Next slide, please. While staff were working in the background on the residential remodeling license, which you're going to hear about in a moment, the proposal to increase, as we mentioned, the proposal to increase the 500 to 1,000 was not successful. And as time went forward, two bills that staff or this board were not affiliated with were introduced in March of 2020 or in 2021. And this board voted 8-5 in opposition of two bills that would have increased that amount. And you can see on the slide the reasons that were offered at that meeting for opposing those two bills. Next slide, please. So the minor work exemption for staff, at least the $500 amount, it really does tie in to the need at the time for a contractor's license for the marketplace of individuals that perform work over $500, non-structural or several different trades, but for which at the time there was not a contractor's license available for them. So the board actually did approve a strategic plan item in 2019 through the 2021 strategic plan period that staff develop a remodeling non-structural licensed class. So staff did do so and brought it to the board, which the board did approve in the fall of, I believe, 2020. And it ultimately resulted in the B2 residential remodeling classification. This classification provides a path for licensure for individuals who previously had applied to be contractors at before CSLB. And we previously did not have a license for them because they were performing individual trades, flooring, painting, but not enough for a single specialty license. And they also didn't have enough structural framing for the general contractor's license. So prior to this B2, there really wasn't a license path forward for those individuals. Staff do believe the B2 has been successful in providing a path to licensure for that marketplace and protecting consumers for work that is over the $500 exemption level. So that is kind of the brief background. I believe the next slide turns it back to the chair, unless David, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, Mike. That was very comprehensive.
That's no problem. Okay, back to you, Chair Mark.
All right, thank you. So with that, we see this is our, I don't see page numbers on the slides, but slide 12 This is some questions staff prepared for discussion today. So as we look at these discussion comments, I'll open it up to the committee before we go to public comment on this. So for reference, I see one hand up. So again, if committees members have any comments on this first, I see board member Cobos.
Yes, good morning. Just on the surface, this bill, I believe is a detriment to licensed contractors that perform service work that would be competing with unlicensed contractors. So I'm opposed to this.
Board member Barton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would also be opposed to this because along the same vein, at least in the industry I'm familiar with, electrical service work, it would be problematic, I would feel, for a call at night for an unlicensed contractor to go work on a panel per se, you know, and where electrical chance of a fire or someone being unlicensed doing that work. So I would also be opposed.
Yeah, thank you. Any other board member comments? Board member Ruane.
Yes, I just want to say I totally agree with the other two board members for the same reasons.
Thank you for that. I guess it's my time for a little chance for some comments. Just from like the staff questions, I want to hit on that one on the bottom, underground economic concerns. As we know, as something gets, this is a huge change for CSLB if the bill is written as written. There was some past history on the board of vetoing such a huge increase, and some of these questions are valid. Of like, will such work require a building permit? If at some point in time, if you, let's say for a fence, for example, you could almost build a fence under that $5,000 mark, and then you're having the issue of having to apply for a building permit and then not actually having a contractor's license for that building permit. So there's a lot of questions, and I think maybe staff, Mr. Folk, can you kind of go more into your thought process of these specific questions?
Yes, I've received contact from different industry groups, and these are concerns that have been brought to my attention. As you mentioned, the $5,000 threshold would include a lot of work that does require a building permit. It also includes work that has been demonstrated to be to pose safety issues for workers. One industry that's expressed a little concern, that may testify here this morning, would be the tree service industry. As you all know, we worked really hard to develop a C49 classification that has a trade exam. And the reason for that is because of the safety concerns in that industry. And so when you look at what can be done without ensuring that someone is experienced, that has the workers' comp, is getting the permit, what would be the threshold? I think that's kind of what's before us today. But the $5,000 threshold would include a lot of work that does result in many consumer complaints, especially in the service and repair industry. I know that there was a study done a number of years ago. It showed the average ticket for service and repair. That was really plumbing, maybe some electrical, residential. It was around $1,000. So you're kind of getting into that, to what extent would a consumer be subjected to financial harm. The workers' comp is an issue as well. When you think about not requiring a contractor's license for specific work, can it be done simply by a one person, the owner of the business, or will they need to hire workers? When we were looking at Senate Bill 216, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, that was something that came up in those conversations with the insurers. They're generally not going to issue a workers' comp policy to an unlicensed construction contractor, for course, the issue to other businesses that don't have a license requirement. I don't know where they would fall, you know, but they fall with this and issuing workers' comp to an unlicensed contractor. So when we look at that minor work exemption right now being $500, you know, one argument or one discussion topic is whether it should be raised based on the consumer price index, and what would that be? But at what point do you get into a situation where these entities or these business owners are hiring workers? And I think Chair Mark, you did a great job of explaining the underground economy concerns as well. You know, as far as the tax withholding, the payment of state payroll taxes, you know, the other things that are required of a business owner.
Thank you. And obviously, for us as a board, we're only presented the law as written, so this is how it's written currently. And I concur with my committee members. This is not a good thing for the consumers of California, which is our utmost protection as a consumer protection agency, as we hear from different public comments. So with that, again, just so for the committee's reference, this is for discussion, and staff is taking all of our comments, and then we will be presenting this to our full board, because we can't actually do a full motion as a committee. So again, like myself, I would be opposing the bill as written currently as well, just for all the items that were mentioned earlier. With that, Chair Board Member Cobos, you had a comment.
Yeah, within this committee, and I'm just asking, I don't know, as far as a recommendation from the legislative committee to the full board on.
Yeah, that's a great question. To my understanding, and staff is, and maybe register folk, if you can go in a little bit more detail, we're going to take the discussion from our committee, and basically that is kind of like a recommendation if we're all in line. We just can't actually recommend a motion or take official position as a committee, but recommendations are recommendations. Hopefully that answers your question.
Just to jump in here, Chair Mark, it's the nature of the meeting that we're having today that precludes us from taking action such as supporting or opposing or making a recommendation. The committee can certainly do that at a different type of meeting, but today's meeting, as scheduled and now being held, is advisory only. So we're gathering public comment, and certainly, as you said, Chair Mark, it will be written down and presented in a report that the board will review at its April meeting.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That makes sense. So with that, I would like to see, is there any public comment in the room?
Yes.
That we Rodriguez again. I have long been a proponent of raising that maximum work amount from $500, because inflation has made that, it's relegated it to meaningless. You can't really go out there and do any work for $500, especially if it requires a permit, because the permit is technically involved in the minimum, that maximum amount too. Nothing's excluded really. And we're talking about, it's been a quarter of a century since that was put on, and it was last changed. And at this point, the price of parts and labor have gone up so much that it's meaningless. And people are treating it that way out there. There is so much unlicensed work that I could overwhelm the area investigators in just the surrounding county by referring cases to them from just what you find on Craigslist and next door, things like that. There's just so much going on out there. And the people that are hiring them don't seem to care about it either. Well, some of them do. When they get hurt, then they complain. In the meantime, they don't care because a lot of contractors will not come out and do a job at your house for less than a few $1,000s. We tried getting some work done, just small plastering work, and that was the case. We had all kind of people come out. I can do plastering, you know, it's only $900 or something like that, but most of the contractors, they were like, oh, if I can't do a whole room or a house or something like that, I don't want to do it. So you have competing interests out there, but the main problem here is that that monetary enforcement level. This law, as written, casts far too ambitious of a net for this board to ever bring in compliance, all these people. I see your stings out there and such like that. It does not make a dent. And people at this point that are, you know, unlicensed contractors out there, they're willing to take the chance because, like I said, there's too many people, too many customers willing to do it. Now, I was in favor of this, and I was going to urge you, you know, yeah, this should be supported. Unfortunately, though, there are $5,000 jobs out there that people should not be doing. And, you know, electrical, for example, heating and air conditioning, things of a nature that can become dangerous at even $5,000 level. I think that $1,000 would have been the better thing, but now you're stuck with either this or that. So the balancing thing I would, the balancing point would be, can we enforce it at this level, which is no? Should we vote for a $5,000 level, which is probably the monetary level that we can expect to conduct enforcement? And then at that point, you can either ask the guy to amend his bill or just shoot this one down altogether. I would tell you that I floated this idea out there, and okay, the people, they didn't want it. And I'm kind of surprised, but that's the way it was out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I would like to take it over to WebEx. If there's no other comments in the hearing room, correct? No other comments. And I want to make sure I give the opportunity for anyone from the Assembly Member's Office. They were supposed to be attending to speak on this. I'm not sure if they want to have a chance to speak at the beginning of WebEx or at the end of the comments.
Yes, they are one of the hands that are raised right now, so I can call on them first.
Let's call on them and ask them if they want to be first or last.
Kulraj Nagra, I am sending you a request to unmute.
Okay. Hello.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, just a quick introduction. I am a legislative aide for the Assemblyman. I'm staffing this bill, AB 2622. Kind of the first thing I want to get out of the way is that the language of the bill as currently written does raise the minimum work exemption from $500 to $5,000. The bill in print, however, is not what we envision as final. Our goal is to essentially, prevent this kind of what we see as a black market occurring, where essentially, in the quarter century since the exemption was raised from the $300 amount to $500, a lot has changed. But this cap of $500 kind of for the labor and materials inclusive has remained the same. Meanwhile, we have skyrocketing costs of materials since the pandemic, which has, kind of created a market in which even things like a ceiling fan installation or painting a fence can cost $500 and up easily. And additionally, current market conditions have caused a lot of licensed contractors to turn down these smaller jobs, which is making it difficult or impossible for homeowners to find a contractor willing to take on a job when they have relatively minor work. So what we kind of view is this black market occurring, right, where these unlicensed folks, and of course we acknowledge there are bad actors, but there can be a lot of unlicensed folks who may very well end up surpassing that $500 cap for a project. And at the same time, a lot of licensed contractors might not want to come out for a smaller job when kind of the return on investment is so inappreciable for them considering their existing scope of work. So that's kind of the gap we're seeking to bridge. And like I said, the bill that's in print is not what we envision as final. You know, we're trying to kind of address this difficulty that consumers are having in legally hiring a contractor. We did some digging with the help of Registrar Vote on kind of the creation of a wholly new license, but we kind of found with the existing classifications, with the B2 license, that this might not be as helpful. And as of now, we're kind of trying to thread the needle in terms of maintaining some kind of consumer protection, bonding, insurance, we don't know yet, while also ensuring that we're responsive to the folks that have told us this is a real issue for them in terms of, you know, not being able to find jobs or their projects easily surpass the $500 cap, you know, these well-meaning folks. And yeah, so kind of all that to say, we definitely appreciate CSLB's and Registrar Vote's responsiveness to our questions as we kind of, you know, figure out this process. But yeah, I just want to reiterate the bill that we see in print is not final. And that's kind of the background as to why we came about with this legislation. You know, anecdotally, my boss has taken on a lot of this kind of work when he began working in this country, and he has found anecdotally that this $5,000 amount seems to be the right amount for kind of the cost of projects today.
Thank you.
But again, like I said, this is a fluid sort of process right now, and just again want to extend thanks to CSLB for helping us navigate this process. And we are aware of you know, the multiple attempts that have occurred before. We've also been in contact with the trades who have brought us their consumer protection concerns, and we look forward to addressing that in any way we can. But yeah.
Thank you for your comments. I think I want to take the opportunity as while you're on the line, if is there any committee members have questions? If not, I do have a comment to a couple of things that you said. I think one thing that we need to make sure we're doing as for all the consumers of California is how do we raise how do we, there's obviously some individuals that are contacting the assembly member's office where it sounds like they currently don't have a license and they're performing work unlicensed. What we need to do is raise the bar, help them get to a point to pass a lot and actually receive a license rather than lowering the bar for all the contractors. So if that's something that I think would be very helpful, because currently as written, as you heard from at least the committee members, we don't believe this is the best for the consumers of California, raising it to the $5,000 mark. So is it figuring out a way, because of the underground economy, figuring out a way to raise those individuals up so they become a licensed contractor, that would be very, very helpful. And then that way they are not in the underground economy anymore. Is there any other committee members' comments for the staffer? Seeing none, I'd like to make sure we go to WebEx. Who would be next?
Brandon Lopez.
Chief White, you're muted if you're calling on somebody.
Oh, apologies for that. Yes, I called on Brandon Lopez and I've unmuted him. And just a reminder for everyone that it is 3 minutes and I will be giving a 1-minute reminder.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Brandon Lopez, the Executive Director with the Center for Contract Compliance. I am calling to oppose raising the limit from 500 to 5,000. And just from my viewpoint of construction, a lot of public work construction, bringing some of those concepts to residential construction, is the concept of bid splitting. And what raising the threshold to 5,000 will do is contractors will bid work and have the homeowner, or the homeowner will suggest it as well, split the job into several different components to be underneath that limit. So you remodel a bathroom, 4,000 for demo, 4,000 for a new tub, 4,000 for finished painting, and now you have unlicensed contractors doing work, for 12,000. So the $5,000 limit, it's going to make it a lot harder to stop that. When it's a $500 limit, each one of those components is likely to be over it. So unlicensed contractors aren't even going to bid or come over to a homeowner's house. In terms of the last presenter, finding contractors to do work for $1,000 or $2,000. I've done, as a homeowner, have had a lot of contractors come over for various things. I've never had an issue with the contractor coming over, and several contractors coming over for jobs that are sub $1,000. So, I disagree with the last commenter about there's a need in the industry for individuals to do work for less than 5,000. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
All right, we will go to the next public comment. I'm going to be sending a request to Eddie Bernacci to unmute.
Good morning, committee. Eddie Bernacchi, on behalf of a handful of union signatory subcontractor associations across the electrical, mechanical, painting, sheetrock, and other industries. I think that the committee members have all made excellent points on why this increase is problematic. We've worked on these issues extensively over the past decade or two. And one of the things that this board has always had as a goal, and industry has worked with them on, is to try to increase the number of licensed contractors and provide an entryway into becoming a licensed contractor in the state of California. That was why the residential license was developed and put into place. But while that license was being developed, there was also a conversation around raising fees and making sure the board was properly funded so that it could enforce the laws in the state and protect consumers. So one thing I would like to ask of the staff when they make any analysis of this bill is what are going to be the implications on the number of licensed contractors signing up to be licensed, removal of contractors doing small projects that are licensed and dropping out of licensure, and the impacts that has on and its financing. Because the industry has been very helpful and supportive of increased fees, but that goes along with that overall goal, ensuring that we get a broader group of contractors licensed or new contractors brought in to help protect consumers. So I just wanted to add that comment. Thank you.
We'll go to the next public comment. We have call-in user 8. I'm going to be sending a request to that person to unmute. We'll try one more time, and then if not, we'll go to the next person. On user 8, I've sent you a request to unmute. Right, I'm going to go to the next person, and we can go back to that if needed. All right, Chris Walker, I'm going to be sending you a request to unmute.
Of the Legislative Committee. Appreciate you discussing this bill today. I represent Chris Walker. I represent the California Sheet Metal Air Conditioning Contractors. We too have reached out to the author's office and have been working to understand this bill from our perspective. And we do have concerns. You know, we are licensed contractors. We're signatory to a collective bargain agreement where we have skilled and trained workers that we spend a lot of time and resources getting our technicians up to a certain level to fulfill the needs of the industry. And it's in the public interest that all codes, building codes, and other issues are followed, specifically Title 24, energy efficiency, public safety, in HVAC, even basic service. Their technicians are dealing with refrigerants, and this is not to be taken lightly in any way. And then finally, we have the consumer protection angle that all of these laws have been developed to provide that would be undermined potentially. And finally, the consumer themselves, if someone is harmed while on the job site, they are not covered by the contractor and their bond and the workers' comp policies that they had to prove that they had to begin work. And so for all those reasons, we share concerns and appreciate the dialogue of the committee. Thank you.
Right. And I will now be sending a request to Ernesto Macias to unmute. Send the request again.
Okay. You hear me there?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody and board for letting me speak on this agenda item C regarding AB 2622. As a contractor myself, or working for a contractor ourselves, we do feel this would create an unfair bidding process for projects that are out there if they were to be raised to $5,000 or more. And just to echo what the CCC had said in regards to bid splitting, we see this taking place now as it is, as a licensed contractor in the work that we do, and raising these projects to $5,000 would create just an unfair bidding practice taking place. It is already an issue, and it would create it and make it a bigger issue. And me being as a property owner in the state of California, I would have concerns with my neighbors hiring these unqualified personnel that are unlicensed. There's if they're not licensed, there's no bond that's in place. There's no workers' comp that's in place. Something takes place on one of my neighbor's property. If they hire an unlicensed contractor, comes and destroys my property or creates a fire, and then there goes a neighborhood, this could create just issues just in that field alone as well. So I do want to echo everyone that has been opposing this item, and I would just like to put that in there as well, that I would strongly urge everyone to oppose this. Thank you.
All right, I am sending GT a request to unmute.
For allowing me to speak today to the board and addressing this as an understanding of all the safety issues and concerns that causes of going to $500 to $5,000. It's completely acceptable. There's so many concerns as doing backup work last year and my personal property, our plumbing got damaged. The city had to come out. So yes, I am opposed to this increase, But my main concern, what I want to bring to the board, is as being surrounded by people who are on the underground market, there's not many help for them to get their licenses. So as one of as I believe Mark said earlier, to in place something that will help them raise their standard to get that licensing. I think it's something that the board should really take even more serious, to allow these underground people to actually become licensed and create the safety for consumers like me to actually start contracting out licensed people and make it into a standard bar where we're no longer having to look for underground contractors, because again, inflation is here, there's cost of material, but again, safety is our priority. So I think I just want to raise that I do believe the board should have more community builds, informing other people of how to get those licenses. So that's all I wanted to comment on today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I will call upon Paul Cheney.
I'm San Bernardino, and I've been a D49 licensed contractor since 1992. I'm currently in line to take the test for the C49. And as you know, tree service is not construction. It's more like we're taking apart trees and protecting our clients, our customers from damage that trees could do if they happen to break and fall. So my comment on this is about what is the environmental damage that an unlicensed or a licensed contractor can do for $500 or for $5,000. One of the reasons the C49 was instituted was because this D49 was an unvetted license classification. In other words, you had untested, unproven, unknowledgeable people out doing tree service work since 1992, even though they had experience, but experience doing things the wrong way. So just think about all the planning that goes into trying to mitigate urban heat island with tree canopy over parking lots and shading buildings and pavement. All of that is being undone by unlicensed and licensed contractors at this point. So again, the question is, how much damage can an unlicensed contractor do for $500? A lot. You can destroy very valuable trees, and this is being done in my area every day. There's tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage being done every day by both unlicensed and licensed contractors. With the C49 being instituted, where they are being tested and vetted for knowledge and competency, that will diminish over time, but you still have all these unlicensed people out there, some with $150,000, $200,000 worth of equipment, setups, a truck and chipper, and they're out there working as though there was no license law at all. So again, the $5,000 limit, you can do a lot of damage for that. And if we can keep that $500 limit, that's going to be much better for our consumers and most importantly for our environment. We're not going to have the damage to our urban tree canopy, you know, where our cities are getting hotter and hotter.
You have 30 seconds to go.
And one of the reasons is because the shade that the people are planting that shade to mitigate, you know, under the Environmental Quality Act, you know, it's just going away because of this damage. You look at the Costco or the Sam's Club or the Home Depots or the Lowe's in our areas, all those trees are mutilated to the point where there's no shade, and you go to park in the shade at one of those stores, you don't have it. That's the end.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comment.
And then we're going to go to the next comment. Jacob Castorino has any request to unmute. Jacob, are you there? I see you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you. Okay, we'll go to the next comment. We can come back to you. Okay, I'm going to go to Jeff Aron. And your request to unmute.
This is Jeff Aaron with the California Sign Association. We've been serving California since 1959. Our association represents C45 contractors. For all of the reasons that have been stated previously, we would urge this committee to recommend and oppose that the board oppose this legislation. And in addition, I would like to comment that in some ways this penalizes the legitimate contractor who is out there trying to be the legitimate licensed contractor, I should say. So I don't need to reiterate everything everyone else has said. It's been a very well stated presentation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll go to Jeremy Smith. I'll send your request to unmute.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council of California. We are a council of construction trade unions who collectively represent 450,000 construction workers who are in unions. Just wanted to weigh in here as well with concerns and opposition to the bill in print. We have had conversations with Assemblymember Carrillo and his staff on where they're going to go with this bill, and we look forward to those conversations continuing. We appreciate that outreach and consideration. We do unfortunately have to oppose the bill today because of what is in print right now. This bill is scheduled to be heard on April 9th. I just wanted to throw some data out. The last time that this bill was introduced back in 2021, we found that the CSLB reports at that time, there were 4,000, quote, non-licensee, unquote, complaints to the CSLB. And the Senate Business and Professions Committee analysis for SB 304 noted that the CSLB receives an average of approximately 20,000 complaints annually, coming from a variety of sources, including consumers, homeowners, other contractors, subcontractors, employees, or other public agencies. In that report, they noted, the CSLB noted, that consumers make up the majority of the complaints. In a further study by CSLB related to contractor licensing bond requirements, it was reported that approximately 26% of the CSLB's complaints are for contracts between $500 and $5,000, the range with the highest percentage of complaints received. It's clear, even with our existing strong licensing law, that there are still thousands of people posing as contractors in the underground economy who often prey on unsuspecting consumers who might be elderly, unsophisticated, or simply taken advantage of. And that is one thing that has not changed in the last 25 years, the underground economy, both the scope and the depth. And that is why the current $500 threshold is critical so that the CSLB can carry out its consumer protection. It can carry out what it does for consumers to protect them in this environment and ensure that unscrupulous contractors or unscrupulous folks in the underground economy who don't want to be a contractor aren't able to take advantage not only of consumers, but workers and homeowners. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
All right, I'm going to send JP Tenore a request to unmute.
Exemption for under $500 or $5,000 really is a handyman's exemption, and for individuals, hire one person to another person, that's okay. But for commercial work, it's not. It puts the public at risk and at danger. Some of these texts, they're just texts, and they barely know what a punch tool is, much less plenum cable. And I can give you an example where there's a case where whole entire discount stores are wired, where it's basically you gotta excuse the noise. There's a lot of noise. Basically, we're install the amplifier, install the cabling for the sound system, all the network cabling, the network rack, put in the network rack. Basically, what you can do is what they'll do in this industry is say, okay, go ahead and rough out all the cables, and that's probably $2,500. And then go ahead and do all the tech work, and you'll have companies like Work Market and Field Nation that do tech work, the gig work. They'll grow rampant, and it'll absolutely destroy my industry. And really, it should be not just $500, but a handyman's exemption. It should be nothing. And everybody should have to have a license in order to do this work. And same with not just low voltage, but high voltage, especially if you do panel work or something like that. They really should have an exemption on that, or no exemption on that other than handyman. Okay, I think that's pretty much. Sorry about the noise. Hopefully, I put my point down or stated my point.
Thank you. Yes, we heard you clear.
All right. I'll be calling on Mark Porter and sending a request to unmute.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. That said, I helped work on the C49 development of the tree trimming classification. We worked really hard on this test, trying to help the industry, try to protect the consumer. What Paul Cheney said has a lot of sense, makes a lot of sense. We're definitely opposed to AB 2622 as presented. I've worked on 5 cases, at least 5 cases, as an expert witness where unlicensed palm climbers are falling out of trees, either dying or getting hurt really bad, and they're suing the homeowner. This is outrageous. I've published little comments on nextdoor.com every time somebody is looking for a tree trimmer. The unlicensed tree trimmers come out of the woodwork. It's ridiculous. To have a homeowner be sued, allowing unlicensed contractors to work in cities, they go buy a business tax permit from the city and they tell people they're licensed. And it's fraud. There's so much fraud out there. It's uncontrollable. There's bad tree work. They're non-compliant with industry standards, the NCA 300 pruning standards, and the ISA best management practices. They don't have workers' comp. This proposal would be ludicrous to pass. This needs to go away real fast, not even make it to committee. It's terrible. And I appreciate the time and the effort that CSLB is making, and I'm confident you'll make the correct decision today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Chief White, I'm seeing about 6 more commenters, correct?
Let's see, at least 7 or 8.
Okay, thank you.
But I will call upon the next one. All right. With that, I will call upon Patrick Mahoney, and I will send you a request to unmute. Not seeing an option for him to be unmuted. I'll go in the next person. We can always come back. Let's see. Go to Peter Michelini, and I'll send you a request to unmute.
And after Peter, I'd like to, the Assembly Member's Office would like to weigh in again on this one. So
yes, I will call upon them after Peter. Okay, the person disappeared on here. I'll call on the Assembly Member's Office in that case then. All right, oh, what Peter Michelini is on here. We'll go with him first. Sorry, he didn't pop up right away.
I'm sorry, we had difficulty unmuting. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Pete Michelini. I'm with Sign Designs. We're a C45 contractor here in California. I'm also on the board and two-time past president of the California Sign Association. We are opposed to this increase to $5,000, and mainly from a service standpoint. You know, we manufacture and install electric signage. We have our name and our UL label on it to make sure that everything is correct and safe for public here in California. We're very concerned about unlicensed contractors coming in and servicing our signs that still have our name and our UL label on them. Very quickly, 3 examples. Record store that we serviced was arcing, like there was electrical arcing. It was a midnight call. We went out to service and we shut the sign off. The owner called an unlicensed contractor to make the repairs the next day. That night, the building burned to the ground. We were called out to remove a sign cabinet that was embedded in a wall. The sign cabinet couldn't be removed because it was embedded in the wall. We pulled all the electrical back to the panel. An unlicensed contractor hooked it back up, which resulted in the death by electrocution of one of the workers at that facility. And just last week, we were called to retrofit a gas station price sign with LED price digits and do an internal LED retrofit for the illumination. And then we were asked not to do the internal illumination because it was already done. When we opened it up, we found that an unlicensed contractor put in one compact fluorescent light with bare wires and Christmas lights. And we refused to work on it at that point because we're not going to touch it. And we actually told the client that we need to retrofit that farm properly. There's so much of this going on. We're one company in one trade, and there are so many trades and so many companies. We're seeing this all over the place. California Sign Association is willing to work with unlicensed contractors to get them the qualifications and the education they need to become licensed contractors. So when we come across unlicensed contractors, we don't necessarily push them away. We try to bring them in and educate them and get them licensed. And as far as the number of contractors out there working,
30 seconds.
Number of contractors working illegally, raising a limit to make them legal is not a good replacement for enforcement. Enforcement and education is the key to this. So we are opposed. Thank you for your time.
Chair Mark, can I make a comment?
Sure, go ahead. Register for vote.
First I want to apologize. I didn't realize we'd have this amount of public comments. Fantastic though to have all the input. It's a very interesting agenda item. But the reason why is I would like to make you aware that Rodney Cobos must leave at 11 o'clock. And unless we can get another committee member to join us, that means the meeting will need to adjourn at 11. And I understand that Senator Carrillo's office would like to speak.
Thank you for that update. I guess we'll turn it over to Assembly Member Carrillo's office and register folk. I think Amanda Gallo was trying to join. Can someone from staff try and reach out to her, please?
Yeah, we're calling her Amanda Gallo right at this time to see if she can join, so we would be able to maintain our quorum.
Thank you.
And I've just sent a request to Galarza Nagra with Carrillo's office.
Perfect. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Yeah, so again, just want to reiterate the bill in print and appreciate everyone's comments on the bill in print. But again, we definitely look forward to kind of honing our approach. And I just like to say, you know, we concur that as much consumer protection as possible, you know, that's a goal that we share. To have all of these folks licensed, an admirable goal, but again, that's not the reality on the ground there. And I think we can all agree that there are a plethora of unlicensed folks. And I think I'd just like to reiterate that the problem that we are seeing is that, you know, this $500 amount has not been adjusted since 1998, when it was raised from 300. And it is in our view that this amount is too low in the context of these inflationary costs of labor and materials. And, you know, what we have heard and, you know, what this means for consumers is that many unlicensed contractors with the $500 cap are unable to find and take jobs that pay them adequately. Either, you know, they find that in the course of their work, costs of labor and materials quickly surpass that $500 cap. So again, I gave the example of a fence being painted. You know, I'm not a homeowner, but I can say I've heard anecdotes, you know, from other folks in my office saying, you know, we called some a licensed contractor to bring out some guys to paint a fence for us, and they were kind of like, well, do you have any other projects, any other work you need? Kind of needing that incentive to come out, that cost incentive. So, you know, and again, on the unlicensed contractor end, if they do hire an unlicensed contractor, they often, with the economic context of today, find that price for the project surpasses the $500 cap. And so that kind of leaves the consumer with these unfavorable choices. On the one hand, they can hope a licensed contractor can take on their minimal and therefore less profitable project. But most likely consumers want their projects completed quickly and easily. And so consumers will then inevitably illegally hire someone to do a job that is over that $500 cap. And so I guess that's kind of, again, just wanted to reiterate that kind of problem that we're seeing. And, you know, taking all these factors into account, we completely acknowledge that there is a potential for bad actors. And again, moving forward with our legislation, we want to prevent that as much as possible. As to what that looks like, we're still figuring out. And again, want to thank everyone for their comments. And this has all been super helpful as we move forward.
Thank you for that. I'm hoping we can get through, and board member Cobos, the hard out is 11 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, Chair Mark, could we take a 10-minute break? We believe that Amanda Gallo will be able to join us in about 10 minutes. We'll be able to regain our quorum.
That's a great possibility, but Chair, board member Cobos, what is your hard out?
You know what? I could stay on for another 15, 20 minutes.
We still have 2 public comments remaining.
Yeah, I think there's just 2 public comments. That might work out really well. We'll have 2 public comments and then have board discussion, and then we'll take a break.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to send a request to call in user 8 to, again, to unmute. On user 8, I've sent you a request to unmute. Okay, we're gonna go to the next comment again, and then we'll come back. We have two more comments. One person who was not able to unmute earlier, Patrick Mahoney, I believe, didn't comment
Hello?
earlier. Oh, calling user 8 is on, so I will let that
Yes,
person go
can
ahead.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
so I work with the service and repair contract, and I do that pretty much daily. And if I can only work for $750, and they want to raise the people to work without a license to $5,000, that's not fair. A few years ago, they were trying to raise the $500 to $1,000, and at the same time, they wanted to raise the service and repair contract to $1,500. You know, to me, that makes sense. I mean, I can understand materials and labor. It's hard to do things for $500 for an unlicensed guys. I'm doing it for $750, and I'm paying insurances and all those things. So you really need to first raise the service and repair contract to at least $1,500, if not to $2,000, before you raise the unlicensed guys up to say $1,000. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Right, and now we will go to Patrick Mahoney, and I'll send him a request to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Patrick Mahoney, been a licensed contractor for 45 years. Hold a B, C27, C49, C31, C21, and a D49. I worked real close with the license board on getting the new tree maintenance license passed, and very proud of that. But along with that came where we were able to get contractors to have workers' comp, because all these guys that weren't licensed never had workers' comp insurance. But your typical tree maintenance job for residential work is under $5,000. So the problem we were having with them not being licensed was all of these workers getting hurt. So there's a lot of unlicensed doing this work under almost all residential work is under 5,000. So along with everybody else, I strongly oppose seeing this going forward. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and then we have the San Diego Regional Urban Forest Council, and I'm going to be sending them a request to unmute.
Yeah, so I represent urban forest stakeholders in the San Diego region that are involved in the required care for trees. In reviewing the AB 2622, we're very concerned with what's considered minor work exemption and its effect on tree care. When you evaluate the urban forests and really where the urban tree canopies are, the largest percentage of urban forest canopies reside on private properties. These private property canopy contributions are critical to the integrity of our overall urban forest benefits, as they provide, cleaner air, lower, temperatures, reduced energy costs, stormwater retention, wildlife habitat, lots and lots of benefits. These trees require professional tree care to maximize. For the state to say that no license is required for the management of those individual trees and consider it minor work is just wrong. These individual trees will likely fall into the category of minor exemption because they are going to be usually under that $5,000 range. We need to keep these trees maintained by licensed qualified professionals to maximize the benefits that we all get to have from those trees. And there also is an additional concern with the unlicensed workers' safety, which is previously mentioned by other speakers. We'd like to support, denying this AB 2622 from going forward, and please move forward with either revising it or making it go away altogether for the betterment of urban forests and tree workers. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Was there any other public comment?
Yes, and I would like to know, there is someone on the public comment who's already commented, so I want to tell him that you've already used your 3 minutes, so you cannot come again on this item. So that is why I'm lowering your hand. And then we do have one final person who is David, so I'll be sending him a request to unmute. Okay, David, you should be unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is David Bass. I sell insurance in Orange County, LA County for quite some time, and we sell insurance to contractors. We oppose this on the basis that the whole idea of licensing is not just to verify the competency of the contractor, but also to introduce that person to like the idea of oversight, and that there are there are rules and laws that they need to look out for. They can't just willy-nilly build rooms on the back of people's houses. but also, when someone gets licensed, they have to get a bond, which gives somebody a remedy if there's financial misdealings. If you allow people to do this big work without getting bonds, that denies the homeowner or whoever's hiring these people of any legal remedy, right? And furthermore, they also have a tendency to believe that anybody that does work for them is a subcontractor. Like, I can't express to you the degree of how much this is happening across the state, of how often a contractor just hires people from Home Depot and just says that they're subcontractors, but they're not. And the people that do this most are the unlicensed people. So by allowing more people to do work unlicensed, you're taking away the remedies for people to go after unlicensed contractors for financial misdealings, and you're not extending the oversight to them. And I guess that's it for now.
And I'm seeing no more public comments at this time.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. I'm assuming, well, first and foremost, I appreciate everyone's comments today. It was very eye-opening as a committee member hearing all of the public testimony. I appreciate the Assembly Member's Office, Assemblymember Carrillo's staff attending and hearing all the public comments. I hear where they have a concern and the reasoning for having the bill set at the 5,000 mark. I think, in my opinion, from hearing the staffers' comments, we need to figure out a way to help uplift these individuals into a current license. That's in my opinion. Secondly, when we're talking about all of the enforcement issues and underground economy concerns, it would be helpful if the office can help provide some sort of additional possible funding mechanism for enforcement of our board, and that would help alleviate some of these items that you said the homeowners were facing. So again, my position was on this particular bill to oppose unless amended, and I'm hoping, it sounds like the staffer is in the office of Carrillo is looking to help provide some guidance. I think when there was such a big change between $500 to 5,000, that is why there was so much commenters today. But in the end, in my opinion, we need to help uplift these unlicensed individuals into a license and figure out a way to accomplish that. And I appreciate all the other stakeholders who said they were willing to help in that aspect as well. With that, is there any other committee member comments? Seeing no other committee members' comments, I think all the committee members were able to speak on this. What we're going to do is take a 10-minute break right now, and then we'll move on to our next agenda item. Staff, can you put a 10-minute timer up on the board? Thank you. We will return at 11:20.
move it right back to item, move it to item C. We're live. Yeah.
All right, so my time shows 11:19. We got another minute, but I could hear everybody loud and clear. So the time is 11:20. We will resume our meeting. I have, just as a reminder, board members, during this committee meeting, you will have to turn your camera on. And if you are not able to, you could please let register folk know. So agenda item C, I think we are done with this particular agenda item, but not this item. So I want to make sure register folk would like me to kick it off to him. So before we go to the next item, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Just two things. One, thematic and turn our camera on would be helpful. And I'd like, though, with your concurrence, Chair Mark, turn it over to David Gonzalez. He is the policy manager for Senator Dodd. Really appreciate that he's been waiting for an opportunity to speak. So if that's okay with you, can we ask David Gonzalez to say a few words on behalf of Senator Dodd's office?
Sure.
Catherine, we may need to unmute David Gonzalez if he's on the line for Senator Dodd's office.
I see a David on the panelists, but he does not have his hand raised. David, if you are there, can you please raise your hand?
Is Catherine there?
Okay, his hand is raised. All right, the floor is yours, David. Go ahead. David Gonzalez, you are unmuted currently, but we cannot hear you.
He just wrote in the comments that he's speaking, but I don't hear him either. And he is unmuted. So I'm not sure what's happening here.
Maybe what we can do is circle back and try another option. For WebEx, if your audio options, you might need to change your microphone to something different. It's that little arrow on the mute bar.
Yeah, showing unmuted. So, but I'm not seeing any sound movement on the mute on the microphone button.
Okay, well, maybe what we'll do is move on. I just want to make sure for committee's time, I think there might be some more hard outs. Register folk, I want to kick it over to you. You had a couple comments.
Thank you, Chair Mark. Unfortunately, it appears we may have lost our quorum. Do we have a quorum?
We have 4.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I wanted to just mention something about the Senate Bill 1071. This relates to the former Senate Bill 216 that will require workers' compensation insurance for all licensed contractors January 1st, 2026. Effective January 1st, 2023, 6 license classifications are required to have workers' compensation insurance.
Hello, can you hear me?
It has been calls to Senator Dodd's office and calls to the Contractor State License Board Executive Office from licensed contractors that were not happy that they're having to purchase workers' compensation insurance because they argue or they assert that they do not have workers. We did have an analyst that has returned all calls on behalf of Senator Dodd's office and on behalf of the CSLB. And it's interesting, I just want to share for the committee some of what that analyst learned. And the callers are generally stating that they're a semi-retired contractor and they're just doing small jobs at this point. They don't have workers. We've had general contractors that have called stating that they sub out all the work to subcontractors, therefore they don't have workers. Others say they do just minor service and repair work. So hasn't been a whole lot of calls. I think total, I think we called back, this is just in the last, I think 30 to 60 days, about eight different callers. And so we did a little report on it. I just say that for what it's worth. I mean, we didn't have perhaps as many calls as we thought we would have received. Now, in preparing for this meeting, I discussed this agenda item with Board Chair Diana Love, and she was agreeable if the committee is in favor of this, of appointing a two-person advisory committee to conduct a stakeholder meeting. So that would include the Department of Insurance, any type of workers' comp carriers, contractors. Any of you that are on the call today would be invited to the stakeholder meeting, and that's if the committee's in favor of it. The two board members that we identified as leading it would be Michael Mark, our chair today, and Miguel Galarza. Miguel was not able to attend this meeting. He is on the ledge committee. He is one of the two general building contractors on our board. So that's kind of my update. Just wanted to share that with the committee.
Okay, thank you, David, for that. And David Gonzalez, we can hear you that second time, so the floor is yours now.
Oh, you can hear me now. Great. I appreciate the chance to be here. My name is David Gonzalez, and I have the pleasure of working for State Senator Bill Dodd. Soon after the July 1, 2023 phase of the SB 216 implementation, our office started receiving calls from contractors angry with the new requirements to maintain workers' compensation insurance, even though they were sole proprietors with no employees. A couple of these individuals indicated they would not renew their licenses. I assume this was a comment born of frustration at the ever-increasing cost of doing business in California. But we heard during the recent Senate Business and Professions Sunset Review hearing that included the CSLB that license renewals in California are down significantly. Further, the decrease matches the experience we realized when roofing contractors were required to have workers' compensation insurance back in 2006. Obviously, we are concerned with contractors working without a license. We are also concerned about contractors leaving the business and exacerbating an already existing shortage of qualified contractors. Senator Dodd has introduced SB 1017 with the goal of finding an appropriate fix, and we do believe it needs a fix, to the conundrum we find ourselves in where contractors are abandoning their license because of the new requirement. We would appreciate the opportunity to work with you on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And if you heard Register Folk, it sounds like our board chair, Chair Love, is looking to appoint a two-person, or did appoint a two-person subcommittee on this very issue to hear the concerns of the public and from your office. And she appointed myself as well as board member Galarza. Register Folk, what's our time for quorum right now? How much longer do we have within this meeting ability?
I understand that Jim Ruane may have to depart in about 5 minutes, Jim, is that correct? 5 minutes, so we'll again lose our quorum, I believe. So I just want to mention that we do have a full board meeting. It will be in person here in Sacramento, and it's April the 18th. So for anything we don't get to today, I will recommend to Chair Love that we place it on the agenda so that we can continue the discussion on the 18th of April.
So with that, I would like to make sure we have at least these last 5 minutes to, is there any committee member comment on this particular bill? that we can make sure it's referenced. Seeing none. I'll weigh in a little bit on this. I look forward to sitting on the subcommittee on this particular SB 1017 and how CSLB can partner. I hear your concerns regarding the roofers when workers' comp became mandatory for that particular sub tier. To my understanding, after the first couple of years, the licensee went back to the same population. So in my opinion, I think when the original bill was introduced, that particular item, we knew there was going to be a drop, but then eventually everyone's going to come back because they understand the importance of consumer protection and having a license and being a licensed contractor. So yes, I look forward to hearing more. Is there any other committee comment? We won't have enough time to go into depth with the full program for this particular item, so we might just end that committee comment. So with that, Register of Folk, can you please make sure for all remaining agenda items, I know I think we should obviously have this at our next board meeting. It's scheduled for April 18th and 19th, or I believe 19th. That way we can make sure we have all public comment associated with the remaining agenda items. And with that, is there any other business that we can take care of right now, Register Folk?
I don't think so, Chair Mark.
Oh,
I just wanted to note, we do have two people who are raised hands for public comment. I know if we don't have time, but I wanted to make sure how we want to proceed with that going forward.
I think, as David Vogt said, these items will be recommended to be placed as agenda items on the April 18 meeting, and all public comment will be welcome there. I apologize for the lengthy meeting. It wasn't expected, but we can't continue without a quorum. And if they want to put something in the chat, you can certainly
respond to that. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so if you guys, I'll reiterate, if you had a public comment and you would like to make sure staff is in contact with you, just put your information in the chat, and some staff will write down your information so we can kind of hear your concerns. And then also, I'm assuming, Register of Folk, this particular subcommittee meeting will be, if you have interests in attending that, please make sure you're putting that in the chat as well. So with that, I appreciate everyone's time. We will adjourn this meeting, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First time we've had a meeting with our quorum.
And just for reference, for the hearing room, you're not muted. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just muted them.